Well, this is a special Power Alley presentation. It's something that we absolutely love. It's my favorite hour of the year is when we get to sit down with the Scout of the Year recipients. We've been doing it, Jim, for 12, 13 years now where we've had this opportunity. The stories are great. We get to see and talk to some of the most important people behind the scenes in baseball. And this year, I have to say, and this is, listen, we've had some tremendous years. We had like Bill Schmidt and Danny Montgomery and John Barr all together. This is about as esteemed a class of Scout of the Year recipients as we have. And two of them are with us now. Bobby Heck, we're going to talk to in a little bit. Former scouting director with the Astros, currently with the Rays. Rolando Fernandez, who's run international scouting for years for the Rockies, who's a legend. And we have two all-time greats with us on the set right now. Chuck Lamar, former Major League General Manager and scouting director, former Phillies scouting director, Marty Woliver, two of the Scout of the Years. It is great to see you guys. Thank you so much for joining us. And congratulations. I mean, this is a well-earned honor.
Mike, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, Chuck, I'll start with you. You've been to this Scout of the Year reception year after year after year.
Yes, sir. Quite a few.
Right. When Roberta Mazer calls you and says, "Hey, it's your turn," what's that like?
Yeah, it was amazing. She called in early October, and I'll never forget it. I had my grandson on my lap, Weston, and I get the call from Roberta, and like any 7-year-old, when I hang up, he said, "Dad, who was that?" I said, "Well, that was a great lady named Roberta." She said, "Well, what was the phone call about?" And I honestly couldn't put it in the words.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you're trying to describe to this young man what that phone call means to you after all the years in the game and after seeing all the great scouts get this award. And I just, I was the same guy that 10 minutes earlier was telling him not to cry. Go rub dirt on it and go out and play in the backyard. And there I am tearing up in front of him. So it meant that much to me, and it's just an honor to go in with Rolando and Bobby and obviously Marty.
Marty, what do you, from your perspective, to be recognized? Like, what's your overall reaction to it as well?
Well, a lot of the same things that Chuck mentioned, and I pulled out the book, and I've known Roberta for years and stood in the back a lot of times because I'd get there late, but wanted to always be a part of the meetings, and when they let everybody know, and they got up and they did their speech. So when she called, it was totally unexpected, thrilled, not really sure how to react. It's been a long career. It's been 40 years now, going on 41. So I wasn't really sure, but really appreciative. And, when I open the book and I see all the guys that have won this award prior to, boy, there are some great names on there. Great guys, great baseball people that have had great careers well before we ever showed up.
Yeah, I should have, I kind of buried the lead. Marty's a Northwest Iowa guy, and Northwest Iowa is my dad's country, so that's
I didn't realize
outside
that.
of Cherokee. So,
okay.
One of those towns that you can sneeze. I think he's from Washita originally, which is, I believe, the coldest place in the U.S. is the way that it's put. My dad's a little warmer than that, but Marty, for people who don't know, you took over the Phillies scouting director role at a key time. And the luminaries like Ryan Howard, Aaron Nola, Rhys Hoskins, Cole Hamels, that's a big core of that 2008 World Series championship team that were drafted by you. As you were watching those guys in 07, 08, 09, run to 5 straight division titles, what was it like to see all of that hard work that went into that come to fruition on the field?
Mike, I don't think there's a better feeling than to see your club on the field and to know that the majority of those players were drafted, signed, and developed by your organization. And Chuck and I sat right there and watched the final out of the series, and it brings tears to your eyes because of all the hard work that all these guys in that room did over the years to get us to this point, to notify me about these players so we could go and see them and sign them and get them out and play. It was just really a tremendous feeling And it's something I'll never forget. And it was great for the city too. I remember Dallas Green telling me, we're going to go down, we're going to have a parade down Broad Street in Philadelphia. And I looked at him like, the Iowa guy, parade, that's not a great big deal, right? The Iowa guy is thinking we got a few floats, a couple bands, and we're good to go, right? And my wife and I get on with everybody, and we go down the street, and it's 4 hours, and people hanging from rafters and screaming and hollering. And boy, it really finally just set in. I was like, wow, this is pretty special. We really need to enjoy this, and I really appreciate all the hard work that everybody did.
Chuck, how about from your perspective, because you've had pretty much every job imaginable in a front office, right?
Yes,
I mean,
sir.
from an area scout, being in the, farm director, scouting director, general manager, assistant general manager. Are there a couple people that you kind of look back and say, man, they had the biggest influence on me in my career?
Yeah, I've been fortunate, Jim. I probably worked for some of the best organizations and the best people that baseball's had to offer over the last 40 years. I was telling Roberta yesterday, when Marty and Linda Smith go in and get their awards tonight, I will have worked with 31 winners of the Scout of the Year award. Just amazing, and just to take the Cincinnati Reds, in when I started with the Reds in '85, we had 19 scouts. And Wilma Mann, she ran the department. But out of those 19 scouts, to tell you how good that staff was, 3 future general managers, including the general manager, 7 scouting directors, 1 international scouting director off of 19 man staff. And so when you start talking about people, I'm probably one of the few, if only, front office people to ever work for the last 2 Hall of Fame executives, John Sherholtz in Atlanta and Pat Gillick in Philadelphia. And so there's been so many. Tony Robello was my mentor when I started out as an area scout in Texas and Oklahoma. He was a legend. He was the first recipient in 1985 of the Scout of the Year, the Midwest Scout of the Year.
Okay.
And now for me to go in as the Midwest Scout of the Year when my mentor and a legend from Johnny Bench on down he signed, for me to get the same award, I still haven't put my hand around it. So but there's been a lot of people that influenced my career.
Right, for sure.
How about for you, Marty? Who are some of those guys?
Boy, there's been so many. The one that comes to mind specifically for me is a guy by the name of George Bradley. George Bradley passed away years ago, but he was the one that I met him in high school. He came to one of my games in Council Bluffs, Iowa.
I'll be darned.
He was a scout for the Phillies, and he pulled me behind the bleachers after the game and said, "Are you interested in playing professional baseball at some point?" And I said, "Well, that's why I'm here. Yes, I would love to." And we kept the relationship going over the years. And I was coaching at Kansas State, and George came in one day in a fall game and again pulled me behind the bleachers and said, "Hey, would you be interested in getting back into professional baseball?" And at Christmas time, he called and offered me a job with the Detroit Tigers, and because of him, that's the reason I left. And to Chuck's point, I think it's all about the people you work with and the people you work for. And I've had some real great people over the years. George is one, obviously. Mike Arbuckle is another one. Mike and I had the same area when I started. And so he had a company car, Mike, so guess who rode with him a lot? The Braves picked up that tab along the way. But it was great because I had a chance to sit with Mike, and we talked about baseball. We talked about how we would do things, if we ever got an opportunity to be in that position, which it came to fruition years, later down the road. But Mike was certainly a big impact. And then outside of baseball, I always consider there's a guy passed away a few years ago named Dr. Don Grangenet that is a professor of education at the University of Nebraska at Omaha, where I got my degree. When I got done trying to be a player and I realized I needed to get my education, he was a huge impact and a great mentor, just in things in general in life. So those three guys really come to mind right away.
Those are great ones. Well, what about we always love talking to guys about the scouting stories that maybe doesn't get recognized enough, or the stories of driving to see a certain guy, or the effort that you had to make to see a guy in, or even maybe a signing that happened by accident. They end up getting to the big leagues. you guys have plenty of those. Is there one or two that stand out? Let's start with you, Chuck. On that.
Oh, there's a bunch of them.
mean,
Some
yeah.
of them we can actually talk about.
Right. Ones we can actually talk about on the air.
Yeah. A couple of quick funny stories. One of them, I was working with the Reds. I had Texas and Oklahoma, and Marty will know this. We had a program then, scouting with the weather. And the northern scouts, who was still cold in the early spring, would come down to Texas and help me scout the territory. And Bill Clark, a gentleman that both of us know very well, he came down scouting with the weather, and Bill was an amateur umpire. He grew up that way. And as the story goes, he's in Houston. There's 80 to 90 scouts to see a right-handed pitcher pitch that day in Houston. I mean, everybody who was anybody in baseball had flown in to see this pitcher. Umpire doesn't show up. So Bill gets the bright idea, hey, I'm going to put the gear on, and I'm going to have, what's a better, as a scout, and I'm scouting a pitcher, what's a better look than umpiring the game? So he puts the catching gear on, he goes behind home plate, the kid gives up 7 runs in the first. Now all 80 scouts leave the ballpark, but Bill's got to stay there for
Oh my God, that is fantastic. For 8 more innings or whatever it was.
For 7. When I was with the Braves as a scouting director and farm director, we had the great Paul Snyder. Who passed away last week. One of the great and a winner of this award. He was down with Bill in Curacao. We signed Andrew Jones. Pretty good young, not a bad sign. So John Sherholz, the general manager, had the idea, we don't have anybody in the organization from Curacao. Let's sign somebody and put him on the plane as a caddy, if you would, with Andrew. And so I called Paul up and said, you have $5,000, have a tryout camp and sign the best player you can. So they have the tryout camp. They say, this guy can't play, but he's the best player on the island, so we're going to put him on the plane. His name was Randall Simon. He played like 8 years in the major leagues. So you're going good when things like that start to happen.
That's a good one.
There's a lot of them, but that's what makes it really, as you know, Jim. That's what makes it really fun.
That's awesome. How about you, Marty?
Boy, to Chuck's point, there's been so many over the years. I think I talked to you guys about one earlier that I don't know if we could share on air.
Probably not.
But we'll move on by. To his point, we, in Philadelphia, there were some Australian players getting signed. So I said, boys, we're going to make an impact. We're going to sign some Australian players, whether they want to or not. But there's some talent down here. So we fly down to Australia, and of course Sal is with me, and we got a whole crew, and end up signing a catcher, and he didn't do so well. Signed a shortstop. He didn't do so well, and by like the 5th day of this tournament, this little guy just keeps hitting and hitting and hitting and hitting. And finally I looked at our part-time scout. I said, hey, Kevin, I said, what about him? He said, well, yeah, he'd probably sign. I said, offer him $5,000 and see if he takes it. And his name was Brad Harmon. He ended up playing in the big leagues with the Phillies.
Wow.
Yeah.
The only Australian, I think, to ever play there. So, I mean, those stories, the guys in that room tonight will have tons of those type of stories. But that was one. And then the other one was sitting in Long Beach watching a high school game, and I'm there to see a pitcher who went in the first round, I think, or second round with Toronto. And the shortstop from the other club comes in and makes this unbelievable play. And then he makes another play, and he goes behind the bag, and our area scout sitting next to me. I said, who is that? He said, that's J.P. Crawford. He's only a junior. I said, he's the best player on this field right now. And just by luck, because we were at that game watching the other kid, it happens a lot. And, next year we took JP, and he's done well. So, there's a whole bunch of stories just like that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it reminded me, too, going to Curacao, going to Australia, that was the way at the time that we were growing the game as a sport. Like, let's start including more talent, even if maybe we didn't think at the time major leaguers or whatever, but we're going to expand into those areas. And now, of course, it's, much bigger and much broader. But that was I feel like that's kind of the roots of starting to grow the game internationally was, those trips that you guys would have down there and signing guys and bringing them over here and just kind of getting a sense of the talent over there.
Yeah, Peter O'Malley and the Dodgers were on the forefront. Pat Gillick in Toronto internationally was tremendous. I remember we spent a week in Sao Paulo, Brazil, and it came down to two teams, the Atlanta Braves and the Toronto Blue Jays, and Pat had Bob Engel with him, and his entourage, and I had John Shearholz, Paul Snyder, and so on, and we were going after a right-handed pitcher named Jose Pett. And he ended up getting, I think, $1 million out of Brazil that year. And I remember to this day us sticking towels underneath the crack in the door to make sure that Gillick and the Blue Jays couldn't hear.
Here's negotiation.
I mean, here's grown men putting bat towels, and when the maid walked in the room, you didn't say a word because maybe Toronto had given them she
was a plant. Get some info
a little bit. So but truly the international field we were active in, and now it's grown leaps and bounds for sure.
Yeah, we made a trip to China. Right. We went to China because we heard a club was building a complex in China down by Hainan Island across from Vietnam. So Salvador and myself and a couple of us, we go down to China and, again, try to expand the horizons of this game. And there's millions and millions of people, players, athletes in China. And it was a tremendous experience. And MLB had an academy there. We walked into the academy and watched the kids work out. And, to Chuck's point, I just think we need to find ways to expand things here instead of contract. We're always thinking about how we can make it less and more, efficient. Well, let's expand. We want these kids to play this game, not walk away from it.
Yeah. Marty Wolliver, Chuck Lamar with us for another couple moments. Two of the Scout of the Year recipients this year. I love we were on this guy butt stories, right? Like everybody has one with pools. Oh yeah, we had them stuffed, right? That's what never gets it. What are some? And I don't mean to call them fish stories because I think a lot of them are true. But what were some of the ones that you wish you had back, Chuck?
Oh boy, I got a bunch of those.
Yeah,
I
have one in particular.
I got a bunch of those, and And I had one too that I thought we had in the bag. I mean, it was the draft day. We're all celebrating. We're in the room because nobody is on Christian Yelich except for us, and this is going to be our pick. So I've gone in. I go into the GM's office with Ruben, and we sit down, and we're going to have some fun with this, and we're going to tease the guys in the room. We can't take him. He didn't pass his test, so on and so forth. Kristen's ready to go, and, 6 picks before, Stan takes him in Miami. And now, Marty, they all look at me like, okay, big boy, what are you going to do now? What are you going to do now? And you go, oh, yeah. But, I mean, that was one of those examples.
I hate to admit this, but this is a good one. We're having a workout when I was with Tampa Bay, and we had a tremendous staff there in Tampa Bay.
Great.
And we had a workout one day, the Saturday before the Tuesday draft. And we bring a young man from the Midwest. He starts to take ground balls as shortstop, and that's not going to work. So we move him to third base. That's not going to work. We move him to first base, and we say, maybe. But his bat's his best tool. So we get him in the cage. We throw him 3 rounds of batting practice. He hits 1 ball out of the park. It was just one of those days.
Right.
Okay. Albert Pujols became a pretty good player. Okay. We had him right there in our stadium, right there. The best evaluators. He lasts till the 13th, 14th round in the draft. Rolando Arango, our scout in the Midwest, had him number 1 on his list. And it's a lesson for all of us. He had a gut feeling this kid coming out of a junior college in the Midwest is going to be a heck of a player, and all the brain trust, if you would, was there, and the kid has a bad workout, and now he's going to, instant Hall of Famer.
What about on the flip side? And this is similar to kind of what you talked about with J.P. Crawford, I guess I'll stick around to watch this one more guy, right? Like, I want to see one more plate appearance. Or, I guess, I've seen what I need to, but I think I want to watch this reliever. Do you have a couple of those, too?
Yes, sir. Again, there's a lot of them. But I remember going in, seeing University of Arizona against Grand Canyon one year, and the big name was Tim Salmon at Grand Canyon. He had a great cape and so on. So being the super scout that I was, and I say that facetiously, I'm bearing down on Tim Salmon. That's what I was supposed to do, right?
That's the guy.
Well, on that field that day, you had a shortstop that couldn't hit, but he had a good arm, named Trevor Hoffman. Scott Erickson was a right-handed pitcher. I could go on. There's like 5 or 6 major leaguers, on that one field. So it's a case where I stuck around, Mike. I stuck around. I was just, I should have broadened my horizons a little bit. I had salmon. I liked him. Yeah. I just missed a few major leaguers along the way.
Yeah. No, I had one. It was a classic story. Vancouver, up in Canada. It's a Saturday, and the night before it kind of rained, and there was a few of us there, and we kind of hung around the restaurant bar area and probably stayed a little bit too long, right? So the game's at noon. It's a doubleheader. We're there to see Adam Lowen, and we watch Adam Lowen pitch. And the area guy, Tim Kistner, looks at me and he says, "Hey, Coach, would you mind staying around to watch this kid pitch a second game?" And I'm looking at him. I got my sunglasses on like everybody else, and we're like, "Ooh, yeah, okay. You know what? You worked your butt off. I'm going to do this." So we stay around, and sure enough, we end up taking this kid like in 15th round, something like that. And he badgers me the whole time. "Hey, I can sign him. I can sign him for $40,000. Timmy, I got to get these other guys done. I don't have the money." And finally, he just keeps calling. I finally said, "Hey, listen, just sign him. I don't care. We'll find the money somewhere." Well, it was a kid named Scott Matheson that ended up pitching in Philadelphia and had a great career in Japan. Yeah. And, again, one of those kids that you really pull for because the makeup and the family are just tremendous. And had I not stayed around, I would have missed him.
I was at Scott's final professional appearance in the WBC this year. He pitched for Canada.
That's crazy.
He was going to hang him up.
That was it.
Yeah, that was it. But an amazing career in Japan. Amazing career there. Guys, before we let you go, you mentioned a name that I think is important to bring up because Paul Snyder did just pass away. And Paul Snyder is one of those unsung heroes of the great Braves teams of the 90s and the early 2000s. Chuck, I'll start with you. What did Paul mean to you and to this industry?
He's a giant in this industry. I'm going to mention him tonight in my remarks. When you look at the Atlanta Braves, I was fortunate to become the director of scouting player development the winter of '90, and the Braves had been in last place 4 or 5 years. When I left Pittsburgh to go to Atlanta, Mr. Doty, Larry Doty, was the GM in Pittsburgh. He says, "Chuck, the Atlanta Braves are a sleeping giant." And they're a sleeping giant because of the players that he knew as a scout that Paul Snyder and his staff have accumulated. I mean, when you look at just in '91, when you look at the players that came through his system that he signed and developed, you had Mark Lemke, you have Jeff Wowser, you had Ronnie Gant, you had Dave Justice, you had Tom Glavine, you had Kent Merker, you had Steve Avery, and then when you went to Double and Triple A, we had one minor league team all signed by Paul and his staff. You had Javier Lopez behind the plate, Ryan Klesko at first base, Mike Mordecai at second, a kid named Larry Chipper Jones at short, Melvin Nieves, Tony Carrasco, Mike Kelly in the outfield. Right now, when you mention those names, people would say, that is an outstanding organization. Mike, that was one of our minor league teams. So everybody that puts the Atlanta Braves on their resume, including myself, I would not become a general manager without going through Atlanta. Amazing. Everyone that has parlayed their career, if you would, that has something to do with the Atlanta Braves, owes it to Paul Snyder. He's truly was the intricate part. Stan Kasten, future Hall of Famer. He's going to get his credit. John Scherholtz, Hall of Famer. Bobby Cox, Hall of Famer. We had 5 Hall of Famers on the field, and Andrew Jones may be a 6th. But the guy that, when you look back, was the man that really put the Atlanta Braves on the map for all this great run, it was Paul Snyder. He's a legend to me.
Yeah, I knew Paul and Petey, and there's something to say about people that they're the same every time you meet them. And this guy was the same guy. He wasn't above anybody. He was very friendly, got Christmas cards from him. He was just a genuine person. And to Chuck's point, he was so responsible for everything that happened in Atlanta. And sometimes as we get going on this game, we forget about the people that actually did the work. And in my opinion, Paul Snyder is the gentleman that put that franchise on the map. And again, just a wonderful human being, a better person than he was scouting. I know he's a damn good scout.
Yeah, for sure.
Guys, congratulations. Thank you so much for
Great
joining
stories.
us.
Thanks for sharing them.
Chuck Lamar, Marty Woliver. We're going to be back with Rolando Fernandez of the Rockies, Bobby Heck of the Rays, the other two recipients of the Scout of the Year Awards for 2023. This is Power Alley. Awesome.
All right.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Thank you.
Good to see you. Yeah, thanks a lot.
Fernandez from the Colorado Rockies, because everybody in the front office for the Rockies needs to have won the Scout of the Year award at some point. And so it speaks to how great a scouting organization it is. And Bobby Heck, what is it? Why was it so important for you to help teach the way for so many guys on how to not just to get into scouting, but to excel at it?
Well, I think it was given to me. Going back to Steve Suchak, who was an award winner previously, spent 50 years in the game. And he took me under his wing. Like, he asked, when I got hired by Texas, he goes, "Are you going to scout school, buddy boy?" And I go, "No, they told me to figure it out." He goes, "All right, you're going to my scout school." And he says, "Leave the watch and gun at home. You're going to learn how to scout with your eyes." So he was working with the Detroit Tigers, and I had gone to tryout camps for years for him. And, it took me a while to figure out, hey, you have to have catchers at a tryout camp. But I guess I was just dependable and was able to show up to catch all the pitchers he wanted to sign. So, but no, he was great. And also Russ Beauvais has been very influential. And I think it's like you get to the point where you got to get back to the game and to the people who are in it and invest in it for the right reasons.
Rolando, how about with you? Was there a mentor for you that kind of helped guide you in those early scouting days and years?
I had a lot of mentors.
Yeah.
Jack Gillis come to mind.
Yeah.
Old school. But as you mentioned before, Danny Montgomery and Bill Smith, they were previous recipients.
Yeah.
They had a lot of experience. So once I got into the scouting business, they just took me under the wing.
Yeah.
Well,
Those are good ones.
With that, I mean, your Rockies front office, the other part of it is that you guys have been there for a long time. You mentioned the two other recipients. It is one of the best, I think, amateur scouting departments in the sport. I don't think you ever get enough credit for that. What is it like working with people who are not just your mentors, but your peers who excel at that level?
Well, what I did, I just listened, paid attention, and I spent a lot of time on the field. And not only you learn from them, but you learn from everybody from other organizations. You start creating relationships with other scouts. Mm-hmm. So, once, I was originally started on the development side. So it was being on the field every day, watching a lot of games, and just learning from those guys that done it for a long time.
Bobby, how about for you? You've been in this for a long time. You've been at it. Longevity is hard to attain, right? In this, what do you think the key has been for you in that area to be able to stay in it this long and have the success that you've had?
I think it's probably self-evaluating. I think as you have to have thick skin as a scout, whether it's an area scout, a cross-checker, or a scouting director, but the ability to self-evaluate and humble yourself, we're not that good. So, if you hit it a 3 out of 10 or a 4 out of 10, you're going pretty good, but I guess we're wrong more than we're right. So I think looking back and saying, wow, I could have done this better, I could have done that better, and then just keeping forward thinking and really still being open to learning. I mean, just because you get a certain point in life doesn't mean you stop learning.
Right.
So there's all kinds of new technologies, different applications, and as you know, especially with Tampa Bay, we're infused with so many young, intelligent people, and I get to mentor them, but I'm pulling as much back from them.
Yeah.
And I think that part of it keeps us young too.
Yeah.
Is just keep growing, keep learning, but still staying true to foundational stuff that's still very important.
That's a good question. How about the change, in adding the new information and the technology on both of your fronts, and how much do you use it? How much has the learning curve aspect of it, right? Because that's not maybe how you were when you first started out. You weren't trained that way, but how much has that changed the landscape for you? I'll start with you.
Well, for me, we have to learn as much as we can. And like Bobby said, you never stop learning. But international scouting, we're looking at players when they're so young that the priority for me is, can they play the game? Do they have tools?
Right.
And you have to be able to evaluate that. Now, can you use technology? Of course. And you always continue to learn. But is for me is just being able to identify athleticism and be able to project young kids.
Right. Okay. Bobby, what do you think?
Yeah,
what
I
about
think,
you?
yeah, I think a lot of times it becomes a cross-checker for yourself.
Yep.
And especially like if you get a match from information, tech, data, and it's matching your eyes with that's made up of your intuition experience. Boy, that's great. We're got a match here. But then when you have a discord in between, is like some of the fun part is diving in and like why is this discord here? Like, the analysts like him better, the scout, and we have an environment where like we go down that rabbit hole, with our teammates and that are more math driven or tech data driven. So it's actually fun to pull that out, and because a lot of times it's like we see something that can't be counted very well, or there's something that's being overcounted that really is not applying to a player that might be a young international player, a veteran in the big leagues, or we see something that, hey, we can use his fastball up, and our data's not great, but it's eyes putting it together.
Yeah. But Bobby Heck, Rolando Fernandez with us. All right, this is a question I don't think I've asked Scout of the Year recipients before, but I'm really curious about it. Who was your first big leaguer, and how did you find them? Bobby, I want to start with you.
Well, my first big leaguer was year 4 of being an area scout, and I got Nick Virgilio, who was a second-round pick when we went. I was at the Rangers, and he was at Jacksonville University. Got there fairly quick, ran into arm injuries, but also in that draft. And he was fair. He was a known guy, so it was a team. But a 13th rounder that I got at Kennesaw State named Jason Jones as a switch hitter, and as a senior sign as well.
Wow.
So we were using look, these numbers are ridiculous. He had like a 12 or 1300 OPS, and that resonated well with Doug Melvin, and we were learning how to use numbers to help perpetuate our players up the board. But that was probably the find as far as early on.
How about for you?
How about you?
We did a lot of open tryouts, believe it or not, in Dominican when I started. So we had about 10 players in our complex, and it was Juan Murillo, Osvaldo Jimenez, and Edison Borges. And we had them all the same week.
Yeah.
We were playing games, and we decided to sign Juan Murillo and Osvaldo Jimenez. We did offer Edison Borges $20,000. He ended up signing for $25,000 with the Rangers. But it would have been nice to have him too.
Yeah.
Oh my Lord, that's a heck of a day right there.
That's incredible.
How about just scout stories, right? Every scout has a story or a couple that we couldn't say on the air. So we'll keep it clean. So we'll start with you, Bobby, in terms of like maybe one or two that stand out to you.
Well, I think this is more towards their staff and the affinity that when I was a director in Houston, I think in 2010, April Fool's Day was coming up. And there's a big affinity for Marriott properties with the scouting world.
Of course.
Or Hilton or Hyatt's. So we decided with my assistant, Mike Burns, to put together letterhead that we have come to a corporate agreement with La Quinta since they were based in Texas. And made it look very official. Let all our scouts know that, hey, you can keep your reservations for the next month, but starting on June 1st, we have to be in La Quinta. If it's 75 miles in that radius, you have to stay. We get status there. Well, it caused an uproar. So it was fun for about 4 or 5 hours with guys in panic mode and what have you.
God.
So, yeah.
That's a good one.
That is a great one.
Great April Fool's.
That's terrific. How about for you? What are some of your favorite stories from the road? I mean, whether they're funny or smart or a hidden gem.
I don't know if it's a funny story or not, but I coached Juan Uribe when he was coming to the minor leagues, so we had a good relationship. I wasn't scouting then, and he was always telling me, you got to come to my house, and you got to come to my house. But I was in development, so I didn't get to go to Dominican very often. So finally, I start scouting, and I come to Juan Uribe's house. It's at night. We are in the balcony in Palenque, and there is a kid just playing with a baseball at night. It's nighttime. He's playing with a baseball, and I asked him, do you play baseball? He said, yeah, I'm a shortstop. So I said, do you want to come to the complex? How old are you? 16 years old. At night, we get him to the complex. I had to drive about 2 hours to get him into the complex. The next day, we working him out. We camping for a week, and he was Pedro Strop.
Wow.
Is that right?
Wow. And he was just playing ball in the street, and
He
you
was
found
at
it.
night?
at nighttime. Yeah.
I love that.
That's amazing.
That's a good.
It's a really great one. You kind of touched on this a little bit, Rolando, with some of the guys that you work with, but mentors in the industry, and obviously international scouting is a far different thing than scouting domestically. Who were some of the people that helped to show you the ropes and let you understand how scouting in Venezuela and the Dominican in particular worked?
Well, like I mentioned earlier, we had Danny Montgomery and Bill Smith. They gave me that foundation of scouting, but they weren't familiar with the international market. So, I rely with the people that done it before. I'm friends with Sal Agostinelli, Luis El Hagua, Mike Capati. We talked about scouting, and that helped. But when I started, I just went down and kept running with it and asked questions. And like Bobby said, I make a lot of mistakes. I fail a lot to find good players.
Yeah.
How about for you, Bobby? Who's some of those mentors?
I know you mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, I referred to Suchek earlier, but I've you become a product of the people that you work with and touch, and I was with Damon Oppenheimer early in my years in Texas, and Lenny Strelitz was there, and even going back, Sandy Johnson was there.
Oh yeah.
So there was a lot of different people that were, Scout Rushmore people eventually, and then moving on to Milwaukee with Jack Sorinzik, and we wound up, I think 6 scouting directors came out of our group there.
Right.
And a lot of it was his empowerment of regional supervisors. It was almost like, you're the scouting director of this area, and here's the bar, and this is what's expected, and here's the accountability. Very influential there. But there's been a ton over the years, and I'm probably shorting a lot of people.
Right, but
there's just, you become a product of some. Timmy Wilkin spent a lot of time in Florida, and one of those guys, you're like, who could you wish you worked with? Some Timmy Wilkin. I mean, he's way up there. He's a living legend in this decade.
Is there a player?
Tim Wilkin, 20 first-round draft picks,
Oh,
19 of them made
Timmy was
the
unbelievable.
big leagues, and the 20th made it to AAA. That's incredible.
Is there a
Incredible.
guy that you kind of scouted, and you mentioned Volquez as a guy that you just missed on out $5,000 or whatever. Is there one on your side, Bobby? You're like, man, I thought, like Marty Wolver was saying that Yelich was a guy they thought they were the only ones on, and they end up getting him. We were lucky. We had got A.J. Burnett in the 8th round that not a lot of people knew about, and we brought him into our complex. Is there somebody like that stands out to you?
Yeah, probably Dallas Keuchel.
Keuchel's a good one.
Here's a guy who was a 7th rounder in 09, Friday night starter in the SEC that had done it. But, if you had your radar gun out and not watched the hitters, and we had an area guy that liked him a lot, and we had a couple other scouts. I never got to him, but I remember getting to instruction league that year, and I'm like, we got Kenny Rogers, and I'm like, I called each guy, and I'm like, thank you so much, and he never should have got to the 7th round, and he wasn't a sexy guy. He was just very good at getting him out, and the command ticked up, and the changeup became a little more intense competitor. That's the one you're like, wow, I really would have been. Try if I was like, oh, it doesn't throw hard enough. Let's ride him another round. That one would have hurt.
Yeah.
We got to know him pretty well makeup-wise, too. He was really good makeup-wise.
Super competitive.
Oh,
Super competitive
man.
guy. For both of you guys, Rolando, I want to start with you. What is, maybe not the toughest, or one of the toughest trips, the most difficult travel that you've had to go and see a player that either you ended up signing or went, nope, I'm out?
Well, a few trips.
Yeah.
Australia is one of them. That day I traveled from Dominican to Miami, LA, Perth.
Oh.
So the other side of Australia, and then you get jet lag. So I don't know if I was awake or not when I was watching the games.
Right.
But it was a fun trip. I don't know if I can say that I miss the players. I miss a lot of players, but it was tough that trip. And in Nicaragua, I made a trip in Nicaragua, and we didn't have any scouts over there. So we called a reporter and told him, hey, we're going to come over. We're going to do some open tryouts. And we're going to do an open tryout in every city of Nicaragua. So we never been there before. I've been there, but, the rest of the group. So I took a couple of scouts. We did a tryout in Managua. We did a tryout in Managua, and we were tired. And then a lot of players, we told them from 17 years old to 19 years old, there were players from 22, 23, 24, 25 years old. So in one of those tryouts, we see this young guy that just, he 6'7" runner, good arm, good actions, can see the bat from both sides of the plate. And we ended up signing for $3,000. And that was Everett Cabrera. So, it was a long, short trip, but a lot of days, but something came out of that one.
Yeah, led the National League in stolen bases one year. Yeah, but you're a great player, Cabrera was. How about for you, Bobby? I'm sure you've got a couple of those too, right?
But mine's empty without a player. So it's going back about 5 years ago, and I've been going to Japan, and usually right around Labor Day, which in Florida, it's hurricane season and near the peak. So I forget the name of the storm, but it was in the Florida Straits, but it looked like it was going to buzz through, go up in the Gulf of Mexico. We were going to be fine in Orlando. So I fly to Japan. All right, we're going to be okay. My wife says, yeah, where we go? So we go, land, and just my Japan routine is I'm going to go to a game that night and just try to stay up. And so then, of course, you beam up. It's 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and my phone is lit up from our international director, Carlos Rodriguez. He goes, you got to get back, Poppy. He goes, that storm got underneath Florida, and it's going straight up the state. So I'm like, let's give it a little more time. He's like, the airports will be closed by tomorrow. So it wound up being like a category 2 to 3 when it hit Orlando. But anyway, so I said, all right, I'm flying back. So I got on the next, I went back to the airport. Oh. Same Delta crew. They're like, wow, you did quick work. Same crew. Got in back to Orlando before the storm hit and the airport closed. And then a few days after that, back to Japan. So it was great for my Delta status and mileage and communication. Yeah.
Oh, my God. That's fantastic. All right, one more I wanted to ask you both, just in terms of the state of scouting, for both of you and how it's changed over the years. What's maybe the one thing that stands out the most? Let's start with you, Rolando, in terms of, international scouting.
Very competitive.
Yep.
Everybody has good structure, good group of scouts. And I think everybody's doing a very good job.
Yeah.
In the international market, you have a small window to make decisions. So it is very difficult, but it's fun because it's challenging. Everybody's doing a good job.
Yeah. Bobby, what do you think?
Yeah, I think in the amateur world, you're seeing your draft boards much more closer. You're not reaching over 2 aisles or 2 rows to get a player that might have gone in the first 15 or 20 picks. It's much tighter just because there's so much model-driven. The models are close. And I think part of it is that's how you separate, is being bold and jumping away from the model. And modeling's great. It really helps you not to be wrong. And to be right, you got to take on a little more risk, and you don't want to do it in a dangerous way or reckless. But if you want to hit a home run on a player, a lot of times you're going to have to get the upside. You have to take the risk. And I think on the international side, I do a little bit of that too. Is I feel like we're scouting players are younger and younger, and that's how your advantage is. And it's, I don't know if it's right or wrong, but so be it. And then even on the pro side, we're ready to trade because we don't have a whole lot of money to spend. So let's do some trades, but we have to wait for the rest of the market to settle. And once the money's spent.
Yeah.
Guys, congratulations on a great honor. Well deserved. Bobby Heck, Rolando Fernandez. Thanks also to Marty Wolliver and Chuck Lamar, this year's recipients of the Scout of the Year Award. Guys, congratulations. Enjoy the dinner. Can't wait to hear about your speeches. So thank you so much. So we're at Power Alley in a moment.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, guys. Great stuff. Thank you so much.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank Roberta and the board of directors of the Scout of the Year program. It's the highlight of any winter meeting for the people in scouting and player development and what they have done over the years, especially Roberta, to continue our scouting legacy, if you would. I can't thank her enough, and I know I speak for all the scouts out there in the field that they appreciate everything that she's done. I don't believe there's been a scout that has received this award because of the work and dedication of so many other people. I've been blessed over the last 4 decades to work with some of the best baseball organizations and obviously the best evaluators in the game. 31 people that have won the Scout of the Year award I have directly had a chance to work with and learn from, and I appreciate every one of them.
I just want to congratulate my husband Marty and all the other award winners. This is an award that is very well deserved.
Congratulations to everyone tonight and in the past. It's a tremendous honor from all my peers, and certainly couldn't do any of this without the love and support of my wife and my family. Thank you all very much.
I'm so thankful for Roberta and the board of directors for this amazing event, and I'm so honored to be one of the recipients tonight.
I'm very proud of my dad that I got this award, and thank you to everyone for nominating him. He really deserves it.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you to everyone who voted for Rolando. He deserves it. I'm very proud of you. You earned it. Your sacrifice paid off. Congratulations and enjoy your night. I love you.
I could not be more proud of you, Papa. You are the hardest working person I know, and the special thing about it is it's not just for yourself, it's for others. And so I'm proud that it's finally being acknowledged.
Thank you. You're gonna make me cry.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Dad, congratulations. We are both so proud of you.
Yes, we are.
And we're so excited to be here celebrating you and just another wonderful achievement in your career.
Yes, and we want to tell you how very proud we are of you. And we want to also tell you how happy we are for you, because I know how important this is, the fact that you have been nominated, or you were nominated by all of your peers. So, and I know how much that is just weighs, that's huge with you. So,
congratulations. We love you.
And you know I don't do this well, okay?
We love you so much.
We love you.
Sal, we're here to honor our colleague Rolando Fernandez, who's won the 2023 International Scout of the Year. Proud of him, well-deserving award, and hope you enjoy your weekend or week with the celebrations that Roberta and the Scout Foundation has for you in place.
Rolando, we love you, man. Have a great day, great night, great week. It's a lot of fun. Me and Johnny did it a couple of years ago, and it was a lot of fun. And you're gonna have a lot of fun tonight. So you have a beautiful family and enjoy it. Take care, buddy.
Hallelujah.
Hi, my name is Sarah Lamar. I am Chuck's eldest daughter, and I just want to congratulate Dad on not only an amazing career, but making sure to provide for his family, for his grandkids, and we're just very, very proud of you. Being part of the MLB family has been an amazing blessing.
Hi, I'm Cheryl Lamar, Chuck's wife. Been together over 50 years and have wonderful family together. We've been in baseball 40 of those years, and we've really enjoyed that time in baseball, especially through the scouting associations, and I'm so pleased with him to receive this award today.
Hi, I'm Emily Lamar. I'm Chuck's middle favorite daughter, and just want to say congratulations, Dad. All of your hard work has paid off. I think it's about, I did quick math, 39 seasons, 1,800 Dr. Peppers a season, 4,362 peanuts per season, and at the end of the day, all we hear about is you, and we're very proud of you. So, congratulations.
Billy, you've known Rolando for a long time.
30 plus years.
Isn't he the best?
He's a tremendous individual, work ethic. Congratulations, Rolando. Very happy for it. Well-deserved honor.
Rolando, nice going. Couldn't have happened to a better scout, and like Billy said, a better guy. Much deserved. Congratulations, pal.
Hey, just wanted to congratulate all the recipients tonight, and happy to be here as a former winner myself and inductee, and great group this year. Let's keep it going, keep the program going, keep the Scout of the Year thing going strong, and happy to be part of it. And thanks again to Roberta and Linda and everybody involved. And another great year and another great turnout. So congratulations to everybody.
Hey Bobby, congratulations. Can't think of anyone more deserving than you getting this award. Enjoy every minute of it. And keep going, brother. We need more years of this.
Yeah.
I want to congratulate all the winners. I was very fortunate to have an opportunity to work with 3 of them, actually. Linda Smith in Kansas City, Marty Wolver, who was my wingman in Philadelphia for 16 years, and Chuck Lamar, who I worked with in 2 different places in Atlanta and Philly. I was thrilled that they all were recognized, all great professional people who loved the game, loved their profession, and devoted a big part of their lives to it. So, hearty congratulations to all of them, and well-deserving group.
Hi, I'm Russ Beauvais. I'm a 2017 winner, and I am so proud of the winners this year of the 2023 award, and have met a lot of them and competed against a bunch of these guys, but this represents the best we have in scouting. And I believe very strongly that every one of us in scouting owes it to the game to bring more people into scouting who love and respect the game as much as we do. So once again, I thank Ron and Roberta Mazur for making this possible and recognize great scouts. And I'm so happy for the 2023 winners. And I think we did a wonderful job recognizing Linda Smith, who there are a number of ladies who, without them, this game wouldn't be what it was. Thank you very much.
This is never not a great event to partake in. The girls hosting, come on. Beautiful room, good food. What a list of good baseball people that we're going to get to hear from tonight. And we're going to get to honor some fantastic scouts. I think my biggest smile is when I get to watch the scouts that receive the awards represent with their families. We've got Rolando Fernandez here with his beautiful wife and 2 daughters. I've known Rolando since '93, when I started as a minor league hitting coordinator. Rolando was my right-hand guy. We've learned together, we've lived together, we've grown together. So it's a beautiful night for baseball. I'm just really, really happy to be a small part of it.
Really excited to be here again tonight. Congratulations to the winners, Bobby Heck, who I worked with. It's really exciting for Bobby to have gotten this. This is one of the greater events that we have. It's also this year really kind of a special event because this is the first time we've been without Mike Radcliffe, who was a huge part of scouting and a huge part of the foundation and what we do here with professional baseball scouts. So, John?
Yeah, I just want to say this is an event that I love to attend each and every year. It just brings everyone together here, and this scouting group is like a family. I mean, another person that we lost, Paul Snyder, dearly missed, as they all will be. But you know, to Marty Rollover also, and it's just we are very happy for all that. And Chuck Lamar, congratulations, guys! We're happy. You're well deserved.
Again, this foundation is really, it's about scouts, it's about relationships, and that's what this game, for as long as we've been in this thing, that's what this game eventually turns into for all of us, our successes and our relationships. So everybody, don't forget next year when it comes time to get your ballot, to send it in and contribute, keep this thing going for the scouts.
Yeah, absolutely. Send in your donations, please, and safe travels, guys.
Truly honored to be here for the Scout of the Award celebration of our industry. The class I'm going in with are people I've competed against and known all of them for 20, 25 years. Truly honored and humbled, and also by the Tampa Bay Rays and support they've had for me and my family in my time here, as well as for our employees that have come here. They've enabled some of them that weren't participants of the winter meetings, and they've come here giving their time and dime. But truly thrilled for this evening, and we have to keep supporting this, keep it going for another 39 years. So, thank you.
Hey guys, I want to give a shout out to and a congratulations to four of my really close friends, along with Miss Linda, with Bobby, and my guy, Rolando Fernandez, Chuck, and with Chuck Lamar. I want to make sure that you guys know how much you mean to the scouting industry, how much you mean to everybody that you guys have touched. And for me personally, you guys have touched me, knowing that I was a young guy, especially, with Marty and with Chuck. I was a young guy that started in this game, and I looked up to you guys. I watched how you guys conducted yourself. Marty and I became extremely close friends from day one when we started to see each other. We had a lot of fun. But I've got to personally give a special thanks to Rolando, who is almost like a blood brother of mine. And he means the world to me. We've endured a lot. We both call each other hard heads, but in the same breath, we love each other because we're competitive. Even as teammates, we compete against some of the players that we're looking to get. He has his opinion, I have mine. But in the same breath, we love everything about each other, and his family is almost like mine. So I appreciate everything that you guys have brought to me personally. But for this moment right now, continue to stay blessed in it. Know that God's got his hands on you and your family. This was well deserved. It was something that was definitely needed at this time. And for all five of you guys to go in at the same time is a blessing in itself. So for me, Demond, to my family, to yours, congratulations. I love each and every one of you. Happy holidays and continued success. Thank you.
Good evening. Welcome to the 39th Annual Scout of the Year reception. Thank you for all of you for coming out and enjoying the festivities. This evening, we are honored to have the Italian Stallion as our MC. I guess a lot of you know him as Sal, and he's going to be presenting an interesting agenda. So, without further ado, Sal, take it away.
It's great to be here with everybody tonight. Being around all the scouts, it's unbelievable. I mean, it's just, this is what makes our community so special. The camaraderie, being out here tonight. Love all you guys. 41 years in the game. I just want to tell you one story. Got to tell you a story. About 35 years ago, I was scouting. I was an area scout in New York, and Mike Arbuckle was my scouting director. So I called him up on the phone. I said, Mike, I got this unbelievable center fielder. He can really, really hit. He goes, oh, I'll come right out. Mike gets on a plane. I pick him up at the airport, go out to Connecticut High School on Long Island. Comes to the game. Guy's playing shortstop. He's left-handed. I looked at him. He pulled me to the side and he says, Sal, I think you've hit rock bottom. Anyway, it's great having you guys here. Welcome to the 2023 Scout of the Year Award. Dan Jennings couldn't be here tonight. He had a previous engagement. So I want to recognize our fearless leader, Roberta Mansour. Hard work and dedication for the scouting community is second to none. I'd like to recognize our board members, Linda Pereira, Grady Fuson, Russ Bove, Johnny D, Big Johnny D, and Gino Watson, who's not here tonight. We have a word coming in from Bats. Buck Martinez will speak to you a little bit, give you about 10 minutes on Bats.
Thank you, Sal. Well, thank you very much. Roberta, thank you for allowing me to speak to this group tonight. For those of you who have seen me before, I've had the honor of being the MC to this dinner in years past, and you know how much I regard the Scouts. For me, they're the most integral part of baseball. And I think it's the first contact a player has with professional baseball, and it's an everlasting relationship. So I value everything these scouts do, and I certainly want to congratulate those scouts that are being honored here tonight. Congratulations. I am the president of the Baseball Assistance Team, BAT. And Terry Ryan is a board member of ours, and today during our board meeting, we recognized that scouts aren't represented among our grant recipients. And we all know the last several years, scouts have been de-emphasized and a lot of veteran scouts have been let go of their jobs, and it's difficult to find new jobs in this field. And some of them have fallen upon hard times. Well, BAT is there to help anybody in the baseball family. And last year, we helped 1,100 families to the tune of $3.5 million to get them back on their feet, to get them self-esteem once again, to be a short-term bridge to help them get through some tough times. People fall upon tough times, not by their own doing. Illness, drug and alcohol addiction, just the depression and things that come about when you don't have a job anymore. We have counselors that can handle all of these situations. And I want to guarantee you, anybody that contacts BAT, all of their information is 100% confidential. We will never expose anybody's information or tell them about any contact we've had. And we are there to help. So my suggestion to you, I'm sure we all know people that have gone upon hard times. Reach out to those people and let them know BAT is there to help. You can find all the information you need at MLB.com. If you scroll down to the bottom of the page, there will be other MLB sites and affiliates. You click on that site in English and Spanish. It tells you all you need to know how you apply for a BAT grant. But I want to emphasize we are here to help. BAT is supported by the active players. They are so generous. We have meetings with them all spring long. We meet with every club, and they donate through payroll deduction. And with those donations, we can help families in need. As I mentioned, 1,100 families to the tune of $3.5 million last year. So if you know of anybody, and I'm sure you all do, that needs some BAT assistance, please turn them in our direction. That's all I've got to say. Have a great evening. Thank you, Roberta. Appreciate it.
Good job, Bob. Guys, this is going to be a great night tonight. We got five fabulous winners, and I'm excited to be here. Before I introduce the winners, it's important that we all in the room support this organization. It's very important, guys. When you get your ballot in the mail, please take a look at it. Vote for the participants, and please send in your donation. Your donation goes out to helping us tonight. This is a great event. We want to continue the great event. It's the only thing we got left for Scouts, and we want to continue this. So please, I really appreciate it. I know we all appreciate it. Thank you so much. Without further ado, I'll introduce the 2023 class winners. The East Coast winner, Bobby Heck from the D-Rays. Midwest winner, Chucklebuck Lamar from the San Diego Padres. West Coast, Marty Wolliver, my former boss, Chicago Cubs. International, Rolando Fernandez from the Colorado Rockies. In our special award, our Roberta Mansour Distinguished Woman recipient is Linda Smith, former Kansas City, Atlanta, and Texas Ranger. Let's give her a big hand. Let's kick this off and introduce Dan Kantrovich, the Director of Scouting of the Cubs. We'll introduce Marty Wolver, our West Coast winner.
I've already been made fun of by Sal for having an iPad up here, so bear with me. Okay, well, good evening, everybody. I'm honored to introduce Marty Wolver as the West Coast Scout of the Year. And I believe we aren't just acknowledging a stellar Hall of Fame, in fact, scouting career, but I think we're celebrating Marty's legacy and a man whose influence extends far beyond the diamond. When Marty asked me to introduce him tonight, I was overcome with feelings of gratitude and admiration, but mostly I was excited because I could relay a story that encapsulates who I think is the man behind the Scout. And it was nearly 2 decades ago, while attending my first Major League Baseball scouting director meeting, and little did I realize a chance encounter with Marty would help shape my sense of belonging in the scouting community for years to come. And as I've come to learn, this encounter with Marty transcends beyond just his influence on me, and is in fact, I believe, a microcosm of the countless lives and careers for which he has left an indelible impact. If you flash back to 2004, it was my first year in scouting. And I just remember being in awe among this crowd of scouting directors, nervous with every conversation. I remember some of these interactions like it was yesterday. And for the first exercise at these meetings, we were split into pairs to role play a draft negotiation scenario. A scouting assistant was paired with a scouting director. And having zero experience in this, I just remember being really nervous with anticipation who I was going to be paired with and how it would unfold. And then when it was announced, my partner was Marty Wolver, the universally respected scouting director of the Philadelphia Phillies. I was even more nervous because all I knew at the time was that the industry was abuzz at his most recent draft picks at the time, Ryan Howard and Cole Hamels. So as the exercise begins, Marty strolls over, and it'd be an understatement to say that he was just a beacon of warmth and acceptance. And he comes over with his trademark visor, his disarming smile, and he says, uh-oh, I can already tell I'm going to lose this negotiation. Here's one of the most respected executives in our game going out of his way to put me at ease, a kid who he had never met and had no reason to be so kind to. Without intention, just completely naturally, as if he knew his words could shape the sense of a belonging of a kid for years to come. Needless to say, Marty crushed me in the actual negotiation, all the while smiling with his arm around me. And still, I just remember feeling a sense of relief and admiration at the end of the exercise, and obviously never forget when he said, "Kid, just remember to hire me one day." If you fast forward 20 years later, and it wasn't until I became a scouting director did I realize that serendipitous meeting with Marty was not just a collision of fate unique to me, but has been borne out daily, over and over, through Marty's interactions with all fortunate enough to intersect with him. Even if half of those he has crossed paths with are inspired to pay it forward, it's easy to envision the enormity of Marty's impact on our global scouting community. I don't think it can be overstated. Our game is rare in that there are seemingly infinite touch points with fans, families, players, and colleagues. And when we are blessed with somebody like Marty, who has made our game even better, and all of us better by association, celebrating solely his scouting achievements seems like just a disservice. But for somebody with his track record and resume, since he surely won't talk about it, I'd be remiss not to take a few minutes to do so now. We all know that evaluating drafts is complex, but I don't think it's very complicated in Marty's case. It depends on where a team picks, how much bonus pool money they have, when a player is productive, all that kind of stuff and more. But consider over a span as scouting director from 2001 to 2014, Marty's signed draft picks have gone on to accumulate over 200 wins. It's astounding. Granted, if Marty would have retired after his first 2 drafts, he might have already been one of the most successful scouting directors of all time after drafting both Ryan Howard and Cole Hamels. Hamels being a player that had gone on to accumulate 60 WAR in his career. Or consider the mic drop performance from his final draft as scouting director when he drafted another 40 WAR between just 2 players, Aaron Nola and Rhys Hoskins. These are absolutely mind-boggling numbers, and that's even before mentioning the other 100 WAR or wins he drafted in between, many of whom were and are still Impact big leaguers. That's a first ballot Hall of Fame scouting career if I've ever seen one. I'm not sure if Marty's accomplishments as scouting director in Philadelphia had really come into focus by the time of his last draft. But looking back on it, in somewhat of a poetic twist, based on some of the most advanced metrics available, it's clear he steered some of the most productive drafts in baseball history. And when opportunity presented itself to bring on one of the industry greats and make him a Cub, I'm just happy Theo and Jed were in agreement that hiring Marty was a no-brainer. The respect he commands, the lessons he imparts, the evaluative prowess he possesses, he's got every tool. But it's perhaps the 80 levity that he also brings that is the intangible I appreciate most. Kind of like the time with the most recent scouting combine, Marty was responsible for leading our discussions while interviewing the prospects. The last one of the day was a young high school prospect, a 17-year-old. There were about 3 or 4 of us sitting on a couch, just exhausted, waiting for the day to be over. When in strolls Marty, easily the most professionally dressed out of all of us, a little pace to his walk as he enters the room. He goes to the kid and says, "Hi, I'm Bill Clinton. Pleasure to meet you." To which the player responds as candidly as can be, "Nice to meet you, Bill. How long you been with the Cubs?" And even if some of Marty's humor has yet to fully resonate with Gen Z, suffice it to say, all of us in Chicago enjoy and appreciate him more than words can adequately express. As we toast and honor Marty's illustrious career, let's remember that his impact isn't confined to these impressive scouting wins. It's woven into the very fabric of the baseball community, a tapestry of the countless lives touched by his wisdom, humor, and unwavering dedication to our craft. Marty Wolver isn't just a scout. He's a mentor shaping futures and a friend leaving an indelible impact on the hearts of those fortunate enough to call him a colleague. Here's to Marty, a living testament to the enduring power of passion, laughter, and the beautiful game that we all hold dear. Congrats, old man.
My son did a great job. Thank you, Dan. I really appreciate it. That was fantastic. I had to write down some notes here, and when Roberta called, I told my wife, at 66 now, I got to write things down because I'm going to forget them if I don't. So I wrote down a few notes, and I apologize if I miss some of you guys because a lot of you guys in this room are friends of mine, and I respect highly. I always have competitors, but at the same time, good friends. And if I leave you out, I apologize. I'll catch you someplace down the road here this spring. But first of all, I just want to thank Dan, obviously, Roberta, and DJ, and now Salvador, our guest MC. That's a whole nother story. We don't think we have enough time on that one. But I want to thank you for this great honor. And coming from you guys in this room, it means, I can't tell you how much it means to me and my family. And I'd especially like to thank my wife, Chris. Honey, if you'd stand just for a second, please. As Roberta's husband said last night, I did pretty well. I was way out over my skis, and I agree. So thank you very much. And we've got 5 children, McKenna, Megan, Allie, Kristen, and Dan. They're all at home. And 4 girls there, and I've got 5 granddaughters, Swayze, Harley, Nora, Ramsey, and Ivy. So we're shooting for a boy one of these days, hopefully. But they're the light of my life. I can't tell you how much I enjoy being with them and spending time with them. They mean a great deal to me. A special thanks to my parents, who are no longer with us, have been gone for some time, as well as my brothers and sisters and all their support over the years. Your support and understanding has meant the world to me. And obviously, none of this is possible without your help. Additionally, I would like to thank the John Gotti family and the Sal Augustinello family for stuffing the ballot box. I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you very much. It made a big difference. And congratulations to all those today up on the stage. I've known a lot of them for years. And, I talked to Brad Sloan previously. I looked through the book and saw all the great guys that have had this honor before me. And thank you very much. It's a privilege to be a part of that group. There's 3 individuals that were especially important in my 40-year career, and I'd like to mention them specifically. Those are George Bradley, Bob Oldus, and Mike Arbuckle. And growing up in Council Bluffs, Iowa, probably a lot of you haven't heard, I lived about a half a mile from the Missouri River, and I could see Rosenblatt Stadium as a kid growing up. And so I had a dream of always being a major league player. And I got a chance to pursue that dream by signing with the Reds in 1975. After a very brief career, when the bat evaded me, I was re-signed by Bob Oldus with Montreal, another fellow Iowan. And Montreal was a young franchise full of young players, outstanding coaches and instructors, including another fellow Iowan, Pat Doherty, who is still a special friend to this day and a wonderful, wonderful man for this game. In the winter, I returned to finish my college education where I met Dr. Don Grangenet, a professor of education at the University of Nebraska at Omaha. Dr. G was a wonderful mentor and instrumental in me finishing my degree. His motto still resonates with me today, and he had it above his office wall: those who say it can't be done are often interrupted by those doing it. And it's stuck with me to this day. George Bradley passed away, and some of the older gentlemen in here had the pleasure of working with or knowing George Bradley. But those of you who knew him, he was a tremendous friend and mentor. George was a Philly scout when I first met him in high school, and he pulled me behind the bleachers after a game in Iowa and said, "Would you be interested in professional baseball?" And of course, that was a thrill. I couldn't believe it that someone would ask me that, and absolutely. And we stayed in contact with each other over the years and reacquainted one day in the fall of 1983 when I was an assistant coach at Kansas State University. We had a chance to catch up, and around Christmas time that year, George called and offered me a scouting job and also a managing job with the Tigers in the organization. And it was a difficult decision, but one that I never lived to regret. George emphasized working smart, enjoy your job, have fun, and draft and sign good players. And it still holds true today. Our conversations revolved around hockey, movies, restaurants, and ultimately baseball. He was a pleasure to work for, and I was very fortunate to join him when he left to become the general manager of the Yankees. A lot of you in this room know Bob Oldus. He was recognized years ago, I think, Roberta, and just a tremendous person, and I owe a great deal to Bob. Never at a loss to tell a joke or two. Bob still remains in the game today as a part-time scout for the Marlins in Arizona. He's been a major league player, coach, and scout, and is a valued friend. And if any of you get to Arizona, please, he would love to talk to you and visit with you. He's just a tremendous individual and had a tremendous impact on my career. And Mike Arbuckle continues to be a close friend and gave me the opportunity to join him in Philadelphia in 1993 as the national cross-checker. Mike and I had similar territories in the Midwest as area scouts. And when I first started, I really had no idea what to do. Back then it was, here's your manual, go get them and let us know how it turns out for you. Well, Mike took me under his wing, and he in his powder blue Braves uniform and me in my Plymouth Champ, we drove all over the Midwest, and the Braves had company cars back in the day, so I often hitched a ride with Mike, which saved me some money, and it gave us a chance to really spend some time, quality time, to talk baseball and life in general. And the best part of it was, as you all well know, we never missed a meal. So, but I can't say enough about Mike. Again, another recipient here of this award over the years. You know, Roberta said 7 minutes, so I'll try to speed up a little bit. Someone mentioned the other day that I've been employed by a few organizations, and I laughed, and I mentioned I had a different, I had a different view of that, and quite frankly, I have a few more clubs yet to work for before I retire. But the benefits of those stops have really been numerous for me. It's given me an opportunity to see different philosophies within each organization, acknowledge how important it is to be open-minded, and embrace new thoughts and ideas, and best of all, the chance to meet and work with individuals throughout baseball that I never knew. If you'll bear with me, I'll just give a quick synopsis. Beginning with the Tigers, I was fortunate enough to begin the first year in 1984 with Bill LaJoy, and a lot of you guys know who Bill was, a crusty old guy who would tell you directly exactly what he thought, and I really respected him for that, and he became a good friend. And he was the general manager. George Bradley was the scouting director. It was a great staff. It was extremely a great place to work, and everybody worked well together. At the end, Jax Robertson, another recipient, became the scouting director, and after a few years, gave me a chance to be a part of my first draft in Detroit. Jax was and still is a very bright guy, and he was an absolute pleasure to work for. George became the general manager with the Yankees, and quietly asked me to join him in New York. I don't know how quiet it was, but he called and I said, absolutely, I'll follow you wherever you go. We had a cast of characters with the Yankees back in the day, and one guy in particular I want to recognize was Bill Livesey. Bill Livesey sat with me countless times, and even in Philadelphia in Instructional League would sit with me, and he had tremendous advice and passed it on willingly. Brian Sabian was our scouting director, and then the late Dick Tidrow, who I spent a lot of time with, and was just really a pleasure to be around, a great sense of humor. The New England influence was always present with witty comments and plenty of diverse opinions. It was a great learning experience, and numerous future general managers such as Billy down here and scouting directors came from that group. One of my favorite places to work after that was in Chicago with the White Sox. Dwayne Schaefer extended me an offer to become the Midwest cross-checker, and it was a fabulous experience. It was loose, fun-loving group with such individuals as Ed Peebley, Mike Rizzo, Grace Zwitt, who kept everything together, and Dave Owen, who to this day is still a very close friend of mine. The longest stop, obviously, was in Philadelphia for 22 years, and I got to tell you what a pleasure it was to work with people such as Sal, Mike, so many quality people. And leading that group was the late David Montgomery. And David and his wife, Lynn, were always so welcoming to me and my family. David would sit in our draft room with his six number 2 sharpened pencils. Mike can identify with the Sal, he knows, he sat there with us, and take meticulous notes. So you couldn't get anything by David. He was genuinely concerned about everyone in that building and in the city of Philadelphia. His mantra was always play by the rules, stay on budget, and be a good leader. I was fortunate enough at that point, Ed Wade was our general manager, and he was instrumental in me becoming the scouting director in 2001. Many of you know Ed as being a very serious guy, and he is, a Temple grad, but there's also an honorary side that Bobby and I have seen over the years, Mike has seen, and Ed is just a pleasure. He was a pleasure to be around, and I owe him a great deal. Some of the people I'd like to identify, I'm not sure if they're in the room tonight, from Philadelphia, were Rob Holliday, Mike Ledna, Billy Moore, Darrell Connor, Scott Turca, and of course Sal. More on that later. Rob Holliday was and remains the glue for the scouting department. His biggest challenge was always putting on a blindfold while approving the expense reports, and particularly the ones from Long Island, New York. Boat hitch on the back of the car, the rental car, yeah. Anyway, that's another story. Mike Ledden was a great sounding board, team player, and remains so today. Billy Moore, who's been out of the game for a while, was one of the best evaluators I had a chance to work with. Darrell Connor, still a Philly, is a quiet competitor who has signed many outstanding Major League players. And Scott Turca was one of the best at digging deep in the draft to find and sign Major League players, including the recent Hall of Famer Scott Rowland. Getting back to Sal for a second, how many of you have had a chance to spend a couple days with Sal? Just give me a hand raise if you don't mind. How many of you did it take like a week to recover from those couple of days? Yeah, everybody. I love him, but he's done it, as we all know, he's done a tremendous job in Philadelphia. He continues to sign numerous big league players and had nothing but success and been a joy to be around, and I miss it. Special thanks also to Pat Gillick and his remarkable memory and commitment not to micromanage. Pat never would tell you who to select in the draft. He might hint a few things, but he would never tell you what to do, and he was truly a scout, and I really respect that. Quickly going back to Detroit after I left Philadelphia, it was like coming home. It was enjoyable to work with so many individuals that I'd known and competed against for years. And I want to thank David Chad. I saw him tonight. David Chad and I go back to our old Kansas State days. And without David, I wouldn't have been back in Detroit. So thank you very much, David. And then off to Miami. And what a tremendous staff. Some of you don't know some of these guys, but I've got to tell you, it was really a pleasure to go back as a senior advisor in Miami with guys such as Eric Valent, Mike Soper, Carmen, Ryan Wardinsky, and of course, Josh Kapeloff and many others. Miami was really a breath of fresh air, and it was fun to be a part of a young, energetic, small scouting staff, a class group of scouts that will continue to bring quality Major League players to the Miami organization. And last but not least, Dan Kantrovitz, as Dan mentioned, we met in Orlando years ago. He called in December of 2021 and offered me a chance to join him. And Dan, Scotty, Ben, Ron, Jaron, and many others have been extremely helpful since my arrival in Chicago. It's a storied organization that continues to push the envelope in the scouting of amateur players. It has been an interesting experience that prompts numerous questions and discussions. Dan's a future GM in waiting, always respectful of his peers and not afraid to think outside the box. Last but not least, I've been blessed to be a part of this business for 40 years and counting. Scouting provides opportunities for players and their families. Scouts are truly the heart and soul of every organization. You hear that all the time, but it really, truly is a fact. Over the 40 years plus, I have seen numerous changes in scouting, including radar guns without batteries and cords, cell phones, laptops, pressure plates, player strikes, replacement players, draft and follows, COVID and the 5-round draft, and a contraction of minor league teams in their cities. One thing always remains the same, and that's the ability to evaluate players. I believe we can do better as a baseball industry, and I challenge the decision makers in this room and elsewhere to contemplate the long-term effects on families while making your decisions. Reward scouts, managers, coaches, trainers, and everyone in your organization as they are the individuals who strive to be world champions. Thank you all very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Good job, Marty. That was awesome, buddy. You're the man. You're the man, man. Love you, man. Marty Wolliver, what a speech, huh? Oh, boy. He was ready to kill me. I saw he wanted to bring up some of the old stories. I saw it coming out. Hey, Damon, what do you think about my pad? You love it? I'll give my speech from 2017. They'll be here all night. Okay. To bring up the East Coast winner, A.J. Prella, General Manager of the San Diego Padres, will introduce.
Midwest.
No, I meant, well, I'm doing the, you want me to do the Midwest first? Now, we'll go with A.J. Okay. Chuck Lamar.
He's the Midwest winner.
All right, come on up and bring up the winner.
I'm from the East Coast, but this is the Midwest winner. So it's an honor to be here tonight to recognize Chuck Lamar as the Midwest Scout of the Year recipient. When I first got this job as a general manager, I went to Bart Baron, Don Welge, and Pat Gillick, and asked them for a few names that would help me and help the organization try to become a World Championship group. I had to cross off most of the names that Bart gave me actually as unhireable, but all three of those great baseball minds listed Chuck Lamar as somebody that you need to have and need to meet and need to be around. So a couple years later, or a year later actually, I was in Florida on a 6-day scouting trip. First 4 days, some really famous players that we were going out to see, 50 scouts at each game. The second day, same thing, 40, 50 scouts. Third and fourth day, the same thing. Got to the 5th and 6th day of the trip, I knew there were some guys kind of off the radar prospects. As much as I like hanging out with Damon Oppenheimer and Bill Schmidt and D-Mon, I was kind of looking forward to being by myself for a couple days, not having the scouting pack there. And I get to the game on day 5, and there's Chuck Lamar. Same thing again on day 6. Get to another game that kind of thought it was an off-brand prospect, and Chuck Lamar's at the game. So we get to the end of the game and kind of built up the courage to say, Chuck, you want to go to Applebee's and grab something to eat? So I had an opportunity to sit down that night and learned a lot about hunting, which coming from New York was not part of my background. About boots, which Chuck has a huge boot collection. I got the first of many yes sirs. Anybody that knows Chuck, yes sir, yes sir. Talked about Toe Nash, Benny Latino, Joey Gathright. We just talked a lot of baseball. And I think probably my biggest memory from that night, walking away, was just thinking there's no real thing as old school or new school, just good school. And Chuck Lamar's great school, honestly. There's only a handful of people in the game that have pretty much held every job in terms of area scout, farm director, scouting director, assistant GM, general manager, and Chuck's one of them. And he's held those jobs and excelled at every single one of them. He's been a part of World Championship organizations, signed and developed Hall of Fame players. I think probably the most impressive thing to me is the staffs that Chuck has been around and put together. Many hours for me asking him about the Red staffs or the Pirate staffs or the Rays staffs, hearing about some of the great scouts, some of whom are in the game or in this room here tonight. The Derek Ladniers, Scott Littlefields, Dayton Moores, that Chuck was a part of either hiring or developing, and that we try to emulate with the Padres. With the Padres, Chuck's been involved in pretty much every major acquisition we've made on the pro side over the last 6 years. So if this Soto deal doesn't work out, it's Chuck's ass here soon. I'm a big believer that you don't really know somebody unless you work with them on a day-to-day basis. Chuck is a very intense competitor, and he loves the game of baseball. But over the last 6 years, with San Diego being around him on a day-to-day basis, whether it's him getting on me, Preston Mattingly, Luke Merton for our amateur hoop dream love, or hearing stories about his family, Charlie, Emily, Sarah, and of course his wife, Cheryl. I've got to know him on a totally different level. It's an honor for me to be here tonight to present Chuck. And I know for the Padre group that's here, we've got 2 or 3 tables filled. I think we all know what Chuck means to us. So further ado, announce Chuck Lamar.
Thank you. Honored to be here. First of all, I want to thank Roberta and the board of the directors. I speak for not myself, Roberta, but all these great baseball men and a lot of people out there in the scouting world that are not here, for what you and the board of directors do to continue our scouting legacy, if you would. It's been tremendous over the years, and we can't thank you enough. Okay. AJ, I appreciate the remarks. It means a lot. I want to congratulate the other award winners tonight, Bobby and Rolando. I've competed against you for years. Your scouting ability and the type of people you are just, everybody in this room knows the quality that you do and the impact you have on your organizations. Marty, I have a World Series ring, 2008 World Series from the Phillies, because of your staff and the players you signed. And Linda, wouldn't be here without you. I can't tell you how honored I am for you to be honored tonight. My wife Cheryl's here. Stand, please. My daughters, Sarah and Emily, please stand. And our son Charlie's not here. He's a major in the Marine Corps, busy at the present time, but we wish he was here. It's safe for me to say amongst you men that there's never been a scout that got this award because of so many other people and their work ethic and their determination and their love for scouting. I've been blessed over the last almost 40 years to be in truly some of the best organizations in baseball and work for some of the best people. I counted the other night, 31 people that have won this award I've worked with, a staggering amount. And that journey started in 1985, which arguably might be the best organization, not only that I've been with, and I've been with some good ones, but one of the best scouting organizations of all time with the Cincinnati Reds. I owe a tremendous thanks to a lot of people. Fred Ullman Sr., some of you know, a past recipient of this award. He recommended me for that Reds job back in '85. It was such a good staff. We had 19 men and Wilma Mann in the office, for those who remember. Of those 19 scouts, you had 3 future general managers. Including the general managers, you had 7 future scouting directors, international scouting director, and 2 special assistants to the GM out of 19 people on that staff. And for a young scout starting out to be exposed to those kind of people, legendary people, George Zurall in Florida, Gene Bennett in Michigan, Ohio, Larry Barton Jr. and Sr. in Southern California. At one time, they had 7 of the 10 pitchers on the Major League staff in Cincinnati out of one area. But the two men that influenced me the most, Tony Robello, the late Tony Robello, legendary scout. He got this award the first time in 1985 that the Midwest Scout of the Year was given. It was given to Tony. And for him to be my mentor and for me to get that award tonight, I've yet to put my hands around that. It's something, very special. And Mr. Larry Doty, who a lot of you in the room know and competed against for years, a past recipient of this award. He hired me to my first job in Cincinnati. 4 years later, after 4 years an area scout, he was the general manager of the Pittsburgh Pirates and gave me the opportunity at the ripe old age of 31 to be the farm director of the Pirates, and literally I would not be here without him. The Pirates, we had a great organization as well. Our skipper was the newly elected Hall of Famer Jim Leland, and just a lot of great people. We played for the National League Championship in 1990 against my old team, the Cincinnati Reds. But there's some people, particular people on that staff I'd like to thank. Diane Grimaldi, who is not here tonight, but was my assistant in the office for those 2 years. Sandy Dingler, who ran Pirate City at that time for the Pirates, the old Pirate City, for those who remember. And she was the first employee I hired in Tampa Bay when I became general manager, and truly a lady that will be a distinguished woman of baseball one of these days. And 3 gentlemen that I literally would not be here without. Scott Profrock, who is not here. We were together 17 years in 3 different organizations. With Pittsburgh, he went to Atlanta with me as one of my assistants, and he went to Tampa Bay as an assistant GM. Couldn't ask for a better wingman. Cam Bonifay, who's here tonight, we were together with the Reds, area scouts together. We became extremely close in Pittsburgh. He was the scouting director, I was the farm director, and I say extremely close because we shared a hotel room for 9 months at the Pittsburgh Hilton. 9 months, Cameron. Okay? But I thank you for being here, and I thank you. And the late Bart Braun. He's been gone for 2.5 years now. I can't go to a game without thinking about Bart. I look back in the back of the room tonight, and I see him with the Philly group, the Kerfelds and the Mike Ondos and the whole group. And he would have his one sport coat on, he'd have a white shirt, and he'd have cocktail sauce dripping off the shirt going, "Chuck, aren't these the best shrimp you've ever eaten in your life?" Every year that I knew him. But I can't go to a ballpark without thinking about him. He was that much fun and that good a baseball man. The most important phone call I ever got in my baseball career was the winter of 1990. John Shearholtz calls and he said he'd been granted permission to talk to me about the director of scouting and player development job with the Atlanta Braves. And you have to remember at the time, that was the winter of 90. The Atlanta Braves had been in last place 4 or 5 years, drawing 600,000 people to Fulton County Stadium. And when I was going to go for the interview, Mr. Doty, who was my boss at that time, I said, "Mr. Doty, my loyalty is with you and to the Pirates." And he said, "Young man, you're going to get on the plane, you're going to go down there, you're going to convince Mr. Shearholtz that you're the right guy for that job, and you're going to take that job if they offer it to you before you call Cheryl or before you call me, because the Atlanta Braves are a sleeping giant. He was from the South, and he knew the potential of that organization. I was fortunate to get that job, and it was the start of truly, if there's a word dynasty in the game over the last 35 years, the Atlanta Braves, it started right there with the Braves. You had Stan Kasten as the president, a future Hall of Famer in my mind. 2 swipes of his brush, if you would. He sends Bobby Cox to the field, already in the Hall of Fame. He hires John Shearholtz, already in the Hall of Fame. We were blessed to have the best young talent in Major League Baseball, 5 Hall of Famers on the field, and Andrew Jones could be a 6th off of that club. The best scouting and player development department in baseball, and the thinking and the Braves way just kept perpetuating itself. I inherited Paul's staff, and then I was fortunate when we had an opening. In 1 year's time, we hired Scott Littlefield, who's now a special assistant with the world champion Texas Rangers, to his first job. We hired a guy by the name of Derek Ladnier, first-year scout in Mississippi, Alabama, and now he's gone on to a great career. He's the new scouting director with Houston. Renee Francisca, first-year scout in the Dominican Republic, and now he's been an assistant GM for years and part of the World Championship Club in Kansas City. And a young man by the name of Dayton Moore, first-year scout in the Mid-Atlantic states, and gone on to be president and general manager, and had just a tremendous career. But as good as we were, we all owed it to Paul Snyder. Paul died last week. For anybody that has been connected with the Braves organization over the last 34 years, and a lot of us parlayed our stop in Atlanta to better jobs, we owe it to him. There's no finer human being, no better scout. He's really, Roberta, what this award is all about. And I was honored to be there. I was one of those that parlayed the things that Paul and others did and became the first general manager at Tampa Bay. I want to thank Vince Naimoli, the late Vince Naimoli, the owner, for giving me a chance of a lifetime for a baseball guy. You know, it's because of people like Bobby, everybody in this room knows the success the Tampa Bay Rays have had over the last few years. But I have to tell you, I know I may not have made as many of the right decisions in Tampa as I needed to as GM, but it was truly one of the best baseball staffs you'll ever be around. Bill Livesey was the director of player personnel. His hands are all over four World Championships clubs with the Yankees. He brought people with him from New York. Mitch Lukovich is here tonight. Mitch was a part of our farm department at that time. He has touched every player the Tampa Bay Rays have ever had come through the major leagues, and I appreciate him. Guys like Dan Jennings was our first scouting director. All he did was go on to become not only general manager in Florida, but field manager in Florida. Mickey White, special assistant to the GM there in Tampa, he becomes scouting director with the Pittsburgh Pirates. R.J. Harrison, who's here tonight, becomes a successful scouting director with Tampa and is still with the Tampa Bay Rays. Stan Meek, our Midwest cross-checker, becomes a legendary scouting director in Miami, and if you don't believe that, go back and look at some of the names that he pulled in the draft. Jack Gillis came with the group from New York, was our East Coast cross-checker, and has got over 50 years in the game. We had such a good staff those early years in Tampa. We hired an assistant in scouting and player development, a gopher, a young gopher. We called him Lunch Pail. It's a little heavy at the time. You know him as Mike Hill. He went on to become president and general manager of the Florida Marlins, and he was our assistant in the office at that time. So I know they've gone on to have great success, but when I was with the Phillies and Marty in 2008, and we played Tampa Bay for the World Championship, more than half of that club came from that staff. They either signed and developed, or the new regime was able to take the players that we signed and developed and go get the pieces they needed. It was just a fabulous staff. After my years in Tampa Bay, I made a few great stops, but the one theme is I continue to be around great baseball people. My next stop was in Washington. I thank Mike Rizzo for that. He was the director of player personnel, but it gave me the chance to meet one Dana Brown. Street kid from New Jersey meets Texas cowboy, big hat, no cattle, from Texas. He became a great friend. He's one of the finest people in this game, one of the finest evaluators in this game. Obviously, he's the new general manager of the Houston Astros. He's here tonight. Dana somewhere. Brother, thank you. Pat Gillick calls the next year, and I get the chance to go to Philadelphia. And I'm probably one of the few, if not only, executives that has ever had a chance to have a front office position with the last two Hall of Fame executives, in John Shearholtz and Pat Gillick. And the Phillies were a tremendous organization. Marty already mentioned Dave Montgomery, but the baseball operations department, besides Pat, you had Mike Arbuckle, who's a past winner of this award. You had Marty, obviously, that is winning tonight as the scouting director. I want to thank Mike Ondo, who is my special assistant. He's here tonight in Philadelphia, and he's been the professional scouting director all these years since then. I want to thank Steve Novarita, who was my assistant in the farm department. Did a tremendous job, and we had a little short Italian guy that doesn't know the difference between the East Coast and the Midwest.
Sorry, Chuck.
Yeah, as the head of international.
I knew it was something.
Yes, sir. As the head of international scouting, and I was just blessed to be a part of that. I went to Toronto from there, and Andrew Tinish is here tonight. He hired me to my first job back with the Blue Jays. Brian Parker, I believe, is here tonight. Was one of I worked for him in the scouting department, and I appreciate that. Ryan Middleman was the pro director that I worked for. People like David Haynes and Harry Einbinder, and just a tremendous group there in Toronto. We played Kansas City for the American League Championship, but the one gentleman that sticks out during all that time, if you would, was Russ Beauvais. Russ is here tonight. I know Bobby's going to have a few things to say about him, but Russ, I appreciate you and everything you did for me in Toronto. And now I'm with the San Diego Padres. AJ was kind enough to introduce me. I not only thank him for employing me for over the last 5 years, but I thank him and everybody in this room that doesn't know him. He's one of the GMs that truly has a passion for what we do in scouting and player development. He lives it. He was a scout. He knows it. And everybody that's here with the Padres tonight knows that he'll give us an opportunity to voice our opinion and say what we need to say with no consequences, and that's a rare breed to find in this game, and AJ, I really appreciate it. Special thanks to Pete DeYoung, who's here tonight. He's my boss, and over the last 5 years, he's done a hell of a job as the professional scouting director. It's given me a chance to work with some great baseball people. Legendary Logan White is on our staff, and I mean legendary. If you want to go back and look at some of the names he pulled as scouting director of the Los Angeles Dodgers, starting with a little left-handed pitcher named Kershaw. He's there. David Post, simply outstanding baseball man. Spencer Graham, who I've worked with directly the last 3 years in Major League Scouting and become a personal friend. We lost two young baseball people to those dreaded Phillies, Luke Merton, who's here tonight, and Preston Mattingly, who's here tonight, two of the best young baseball people in the game. And there's so many other Padres here tonight. I mean, Keith Beck is on our staff, James Keller is on our staff, Dominic Viola is here, Ron Rizzi is here. We've got Cody and Adam from the analytic department. We've got, you know, Nick and Josh from the front office, a lot of people here, not only because I'm getting the award tonight, but because they truly love the game and they love scouting and they appreciate scouting and player development. I looked down, I saw the ring that we got tonight, and when I see that ring, I see so many people just like you in this audience that love scouting, that they truly believe in their heart that scouting and player development is the only way you can consistently put a winning team on a major league field. And I look down there and I see a tremendous amount of competitors, and some of them in this room, that we competed against each other. Some of us didn't talk much. Some of us may not even like each other. But there was a common bond and a common thread and a competition to try to beat the other guys. And I see, when I look down at that ring and I put it on, I remembered that these people had a true appreciation for each other. They cared about, they were true to scouting, as AJ would say, and they've never forgotten that. When my dad was alive, he said, I told him I was going to go in, I was leaving the amateur ranks and I was going to go into professional baseball. And I told him, and he said, "Is that right?" He said, "Well, let me tell you something." He said, "If you stay in this game long enough, the game of baseball will not owe you a thing. You will owe the game of baseball everything." And tonight, no truer words were ever spoken. Thank you.
I worked with Chuck for 5 years. I respect, he's one of the top evaluators I've ever seen. I mean, Chuck is a special guy. We had a lot of fun together, Chuck, and great speech, Chuck. Really appreciate it. Let's say if I can get the East and the West right this time. Dayton Moore will introduce the Roberta Mansour Distinguished Woman of the Year, Linda Smith.
Good evening. It's a very special honor to present tonight and to celebrate Linda Smith as the Roberta Mansour Distinguished Woman in Baseball. One of Linda's most consistent phrases when you asked her how her day was going, she would respond, and I quote, "Pursuing excellence in scouting and player development." And Linda, not only were you pursuing excellence in scouting and player development, indeed you achieved excellence in scouting and player development. Linda did this over 5 decades, working for 3 different organizations. She started with the Kansas City Royals in 1972. Linda's stops were in Atlanta, Texas, before returning to the Royals in 2001, where she remained until her retirement in 2017. She saw the evolution of scouting from handwritten reports to typewritten reports and on into the high-tech age. And I'm sure she's read more medical reports than most doctors. This amazing group of baseball people understand completely what your abilities and values mean to a major league front office. The importance of the relationship between the front office and the scouts in the field, and they truly appreciate it, Linda. Your dedication and above beyond attitude meant the world to all the scouts that you served. That relationship was simply beautiful. And I can't help but think about the very special bond you had with legendary scout and Hall of Famer Art Stewart. We all admired that very special relationship, those memories watching you two interact together, and the great respect you had for each other and the talents and abilities, as I said, was truly special. Linda was a part of 3 world championships in the 80s, the 90s, and the 2000s. And it should be noted that all of those championships were won with homegrown talent that was produced by the great work of scouting and player development. Linda, you were the glue, the heartbeat, and the difference maker of all those very successful scouting departments. So please join me in celebrating Linda Smith, a very special lady and a friend to all of us. Linda?
Thank you very much, Dayton. Dayton and I was very fortunate to work with Dayton in both Atlanta and in Kansas City. First, I'd like to thank the Board of Directors of the Scout of the Year Foundation for this extraordinary and totally unexpected honor. Congratulations to the Scouts being celebrated here tonight and to all the previous winners. It's pretty unbelievable for me to be receiving this recognition named for Roberta, whose work running and growing the Scout of the Year Foundation is an inspiration. Everyone in this room knows that baseball is a team sport, not just on the field, but off the field. Obviously, players are the face of the game, but everyone who works in a front office is a vital part of the machine that is baseball. The grounds crew, the clubhouse attendants, ticketing, accounting, marketing, stadium operations. The list is quite long. But the heart and soul is the baseball operations department. And it all begins with scouting. When I started out in baseball in 1972, we didn't have computers. We kept handwritten reports in these enormous 3-inch binders. There was no separation, and scouts were responsible for coverage of both amateur and professional players. Over the next 4 decades, huge changes occurred in how responsibilities and territories were divided and assigned. The advent of the computer completely altered how information was submitted, stored, and analyzed. The availability and utilization of statistical information grew exponentially. One thing, however, never changed, and that was the dedication of the Scouts. I have a boundless and unending admiration and respect for Scouts and the scouting profession. Scouts are such a unique breed of individuals. You have a very special vision. They're detectives who are charged with doing the nearly impossible, and they are relentless. They're asked to learn everything they can about a player's character, and then gaze into the future and evaluate not just a player's physical tools, but most importantly, the intangibles that everyone always talks about, player makeup. They need to know a player's heart, his will, his determination, and possibly most important, his ability to handle failure. Then they're asked to project that player's potential years down the road. Scouts spend endless hours and days on the road, away from their families. Innumerable miles are driven, countless flights are flown, endless reports are written, all while they search for the elusive gem, a player with not only the necessary talent, but the intangibles which will allow him to succeed in a career in professional baseball. I was fortunate beyond words to spend my career watching, interacting with, and learning from an exceptional group of individuals like John Sherholz, Dayton Moore, Art Stewart, Derek Ladnier, J.J. Piccolo, Renee Francisco, Scott Sharp, Lonnie Goldberg, Allard Baird, Paul Snyder, Dean Taylor, Steve Williams, Gene Watson, Jack Monahan, Emily Penning, and Chris Rice, to name only a few. Then there were colleagues at other clubs in the league offices, when we had league offices, and the commissioner's office. The list is truly endless, and I owe each and every individual who I ever interacted with in baseball a huge thank you. My admiration for scouts and the work that they do is what makes this recognition so extraordinarily special to me. So thank you again for this honor, but more importantly, thank you to all scouts, past and present, for the pleasure of working with you. It was a privilege and a joy.
Thank you very much, Linda. I'd like to introduce Billy Schmidt, General Manager, Colorado Rockies, to present the International Award to Rolando Fernandez of the Colorado Rockies.
It is my honor to introduce Rolando Fernandez. Rolando has been with the Rockies for over 31 years. Started out as a young hitting coach in 1993. He was promoted to Director of International Operations in the fall of 2000. In fall of 2000, we had a little house on the hill, and that was our complex. We had a handful of scouts and a couple coaches. Today, in his last 23 years of overseeing our operation, he has built a staff of over 50 people, along with a beautiful complex down in Santo Domingo in Boca Chica. He has produced over 30-plus players as he's traveled the world, and this honor here is self-deserving.
Thank you, Bill. Good evening. Buenas noches. It's great to see everyone here tonight. I want to thank Roberta and the Board of Directors for everything they do for the scouting community and this amazing night. To all of the recipients tonight, Marty, Chuck, Bobby, and Linda, congratulations, and I'm blessed and honored to be receiving this recognition along you guys. I'd like to introduce my beautiful family. My daughter, Sophia, she's 24 years old, graduated from Florida State University with a degree in music. She's presently a music director at a church. Adriana, she's 14 years old, in 8th grade, honor society student, volleyball player, and she's also my English teacher. And my wife, Kim, I won't say your age. She's the love of my life, a wonderful mother, my best friend. She has the ability to make me feel present even though I'm away from home 300 nights out of the year. She's the heart and soul of a family. And I thank you for never making me feel guilty for missing special dates and events. I love you all. I am really honored to receive the International Scout of the Year Award. This recognition for me represents values, hard work, commitment, perseverance, and above all, teamwork. Like most people here, my baseball journey started with a passion and obsession for the game of baseball and a dream of one day becoming a Major League Baseball player. That helped me get a baseball scholarship, learn English, graduate from college, and get drafted by the Chicago Cubs in 1990, where I played for 3 seasons. In 1993, I was hired by the Colorado Rockies, where I worked for, I've been working now for 30 years. My first 7 years, I was on the development side, where I was first, like Bill mentioned, a hitting coach, a roving coordinator, and the director of international operations. And I was blessed to, in 2000, had the opportunity to start signing players. At that time, I had no knowledge of scouting. I was blessed to have Danny Montgomery and Jack Gillis be my one-on-one scouting instructors. And we worked very hard for about 6 months. They didn't let me sign a player. And then after about 6 months, they let me run with it. On a tight budget, the scouts and I signed a few players that in 2001 played in the first DSL season. That year, the DSL club won 19 games and lost 50. A few years later, in 2007, our Major League club won the National League Championship on the Clan Huddle. 4 players out of that club that only won 19 games pitched at some point in the big leagues in 2007. Osvaldo Jimenez and Manuel Corpas, and 2 years later we signed Franklin Morales. They all pitched in the National League Championship and the World Series, and they all had good Major League careers. That is one of the good memories in my scouting career so far. Tonight, being recognized by my peers, who I respect, compete against, and understand the challenges of international scouting, especially in Latin America, makes this recognition very, very special to me, and one that I will cherish for the rest of my career. I've been blessed to be surrounded by amazing people that have been instrumental throughout my life and my career. I'm only going to mention some, but I'm grateful for all of them. I'd like to express my gratitude to all the international scouts and development staff that have worked with me throughout the years, especially 2 individuals that are here tonight, Edison Lora and Orlando Medina. Thank you very much. Edison Lora is the Latin field coordinator that have been with me from the beginning, and Orlando Medina is the Latin America scouting supervisor. To Dick Bollerson, who gave me my first job in baseball, PJ Carey, who was my mentor in development, Clarence Huddle, and of course, Danny Montgomery, Jack Gillis, and Bill Schmidt. I thank you all for the opportunities, for your mentorship, your support, and your trust. Thank you very much.
Good job, Fernando. Our next recipient, I will introduce Eric Neander, President of Baseball Operations, to present the East Coast Award for Bobby Heck.
Thank you very much. Dan, when you let off, Bobby leaned over to me and said, man, he set a high bar. And I thought to myself, yeah, we're going to have to go around it and call an Omaha here. So I thought I need to demonstrate that I learned something from Bobby and in the way that I set this up and I structure it. And I'm going to set my notes aside a little bit and speak more from here because it's what you mean to me. Family, teammates, and baseball. That's what's important to Bobby. It's in that order. Nikki, Jordy, thank you for being here. He'll talk about you plenty, but it means a lot to all of us. Delp, you might as well be family, certainly as well. Jim, Susan, the same. Thanks for being here. I know how much it means to him that you're here supporting him. To the Rays, can y'all stand up for a second, please? Bobby, you often complain about how big our staff is, but I'm pretty sure they just want to work with you. So we've got people from amateur scouting, pro scouting, international, player development, medical, even a marlin stuck in there. Pete, I see you. You're still a fish, so that counts. Tyler Storr, Max Cohen, Jason Gray flew in just to be here for this. That's what this is about. That's what you mean to us, and frankly, that's why you're receiving this award. Real quick, Bobby started in 1995 full-time with Texas, moved to Milwaukee as an East Coast cross-checker, supervisor in 2000, and then to Houston as a scouting director in 2008. Could I get, along the theme of family, teammates, I'll get to baseball in a minute, but for those that have been affected by Bobby as a former teammate or a friend, could y'all raise your hands real quick? I just wanted you to see the amount of people in this room that you've made a difference to. Again, that's why you're getting this award. And I think if you never impacted a big leaguer's journey, you'd still be up here. But fortunately for you, you caught a few of those too. So, Prince Fielder, Michael Brantley, Lorenzo Cain, I'm going to go to my notes for just a minute to make sure. You got a long list. You got a long list. Prince Fielder, Lorenzo Cain, Ryan Braun, Michael Brantley, Jeremy Jeffries. The run that Bobby Yu, Jack Zarenzik, the Milwaukee staff had was unbelievable. It got you the attention in Houston, got you the job that was very well deserved. I met you in 2012 after you spent 5 years in Houston, and you were let go. I'll get to that in a minute. Thank you, Houston. We brought you in. I didn't know much about you. I remember talking to Andrew. Had a chance to interview you, spent some time with you. He said, "So what'd you think of Bobby?" I said, "Well," you look back at the work that was done in Milwaukee and that he had a hand in. So many of them were obvious now, but they weren't then. Your vision to be willing to put your name on players that we might not have seen that you saw, I don't know if there's a bigger testament to your ability as an evaluator than that. Houston, we talked about Houston. Said, I don't know. Hey, Andrew said, what do you think of the drafts in Houston? I was like, I don't know. It's been 5 years. Jason Castro, his first round pick in 2008, hadn't made much of a difference yet. Like, we'll see. Bobby is convinced that they were good drafts. So we'll see how it plays out. I said he's got a stare that's a little scary. Delp, you talked about that stare going all the way back to Broward that he had away. As soon as you mentioned that, we're there. Rob Metzler, I don't know if you're in here, but running the amateur drafts and whenever Bobby's in the front row, you know when he doesn't approve of what you're saying by that same stare. That came through in the interview. And you like to laugh at your own jokes. Those are my notes. You pleaded for patience in the judgment of your drafts in Houston. You talked about the right ingredients and patience, the right ingredients and patience. Well, we brought you in 2012. In 2013, your first draft pick, Jason Castro, was an all-star. From there, it took off. And you were right before we realized it. Jordan Lyles, Kike Hernandez, Dallas Keuchel, J.D. Martinez, Delano DeShields, Mike Fultonevich, Vince Velasquez, George Springer, Adrian Hauser, Carlos Correa, Lance McCullers, Brett Phillips, to name a few. Not bad. Appreciate them letting you go. Those players formed the foundation of Houston's first playoff team in a long time, and eventually their World Series team. Bobby, you had a huge part in that, and I know you were with us and in that uniform, but you had a huge part of that. You deserve a lot of credit. One of these days, we're going to figure out how to get you a ring with the team you're with. I've gotten to know Bobby a lot over the years. I'm honored to be up here introducing him. He's as good of a teammate as you'll find. He's as loyal as they come. A fierce competitor, at times intimidating, but for all the right reasons. His opinions, at times, they get passionate enough that they turn into facts, but he's usually right. You've meant a lot to me. I've learned an awful lot, and like I said, going back to family, to teammates, and then baseball in that order, I've tried to embody the things that you do in your life and how you go about your work. So thank you for everything. This is beyond well-deserved. I'm going to get out of here so you can talk and address this group as well. So congratulations, Bobby.
Not so old school. The fonts help too. Well, once again, I'm hitting last. I thought that had a chance to end when they took the spikes away. Thank you, Eric, for the kudos and kind words. I guess I'll be owing you a dinner at Burns. Congratulations to my fellow recipients and their families this evening. You're just as important as they are. I'm honored to be recognized with all of you on this evening. Thank you, Roberta, and the board for doing this for the Scouts. It really is a special night. You saw 3 tables of Rays where they could have been flying home. That's who we are. Lucky to be there. A big thanks to the ballot stuffers out there. I could not think of a higher honor of being recognized by your peer group, especially with ones that you work against. I've been fortunate to be involved in the drafting and signing of an MVP, Cy Young winner, Rookie of the Years, but I'm not here without the Hall of Famer, Nicole. Ever supporting, loving, caring, 31 years. But she'll tell you it's 15 and a half and the Scout wife's here. Thank you, Nick. Sorry, Jordy, Mom first tonight. Many of you saw her grow up at numerous amateur parks, especially the Florida Scouting crew. So proud of you. The young lady you've become, both as a person and your career path just far. She works at MLB Network. I had nothing to do with it. She knocked down that door without my last name attached to it. She used her on-air name. I'm sorry I missed so many nights in your life growing up, but it's very obvious you were in the best of hands. Thank you to my brother Jim and Susan for joining me tonight, making the trip from Atlanta, sharing this experience. Thank you for your constant support, encouragement through the years, especially when I felt like the man in the ring. Thank you to my mom and sister Pam at home in Tampa, who will get the video version of this. Looking out in this room at so many faces that are special to me, there's no chance I will be able to recognize all of you individually, but you know who you are, and thank you. A special thanks to all my Rays teammates in attendance this evening. A big and moving thank you for those that came here on their own dime and their own time that weren't winter meeting participants to celebrate this evening with me. It's very humbling, makes my heart smile. I'm quite aware I'm not standing up here without the area scouts, regional supervisors, and my national guy, Posty. Back in the Houston staff and then the cast of characters I had to wrangle when I was running the East with Milwaukee. Pretty good runs in both spots, and we had fun doing it. Thank you for putting me in front of the right players. I have to thank those who gave me opportunities, but first 3 people who have been the dearest and most influential, both in baseball and life to some degree. Steve Suchak, who passed away in 2002, spent more than 50 years in the game of baseball. He's also a former East Coast Scout of the Year. He guided me to scouting and away from coaching as a young buck after getting released. And then once I got hired full-time for the Rangers, I went to his scout school. I guess Steve's scout school was a payback from going to all those tryout camps. He started inviting me when I was 15 years old. Did realize years later, I guess I'm a slow learner, that you have to have catchers to have a tryout camp. But even with that, the payback was spending that time with him, and spending for about 10 days, it was being with Steve Suchak, where he taught me how to scout with my eyes and evaluate with my eyes and not just watch with my eyes. Forever grateful for that. Steve became a friend of our family, provided me with a foundation in scouting that I still work from. Russ Beauvais, can't say enough about this man. Also a former East Coast Scout of the Year. He's here tonight with his lovely wife, Sandy, dear friends to our family. He somehow took an interest in me as an associate scout with the Brewers after my playing days. I'm forever grateful to the many hats you have worn for me. Good thing he's always needed a hat. As a baseball mentor, a life mentor, a pasta mentor, a wine mentor, a consigliere, and at times a father figure and a true friend. He's helped and guided many in this room. I'm forever grateful that I was one of them. Thank you for being here tonight to share this honor with me. I hope that I made both Steve and Russ proud. And then there's Delp, my best friend in baseball and in life. We go back to the fall of 1985 when he showed up at Broward Community College from Auburn, New York. And then head coach Jim Gabella hitched me to the sophomore and then the freshman Delp to show him the ropes, so to speak. Thank God for no cell phones back in those days, especially the ones that can take pictures in movies. We took different roads from there over the last 38 years, but somehow they've been mostly parallel, especially our passion for baseball, our passion for scouting, our passion for family, fun, and in recent years, brown water and cooking. I'm sure we have a streak of 1,984 consecutive weeks of talking to one another. Mark was instrumental in my Rangers hire back in 1995, as he had been on the staff for a few years already and sponsored me to Lenny Strelitz. But I will forever remember him calling me each and every day when I had forced vacation by the Astros back in the August and September of 2012, just to check in and see how I was doing. Once I started engaging with teams on next opportunities, it became Dopiano's time as well, too. So he wanted updates on what was shaking out. But the fact that he called and checked on me and my well-being, I'll never forget. He's also Jordan's godfather. Thank you for being here tonight, but of course you're here. You're always here. I guess it could have been 4 with Jeff Lunau, because without him sending me to scout free agency, I probably would have never become a Ray. And by the way, for you next-gen baseball people out there, we're not renewing you means you're fired. As we all know in the game, there's no utopia, but I can tell you the Tampa Bay Rays are a unicorn in our industry. This culture started back with Stu Sternberg, Matt Silverman, and Andrew Friedman back in 2005, and has been carried forward by my quarterback, Eric Neander. I'm blessed to work with him. He's an absolute gem. A biggest of all thank yous to for all of those people with the Rays in leadership and ownership, for your trust, your generosity, the genuine care for me and my family, as well as allowing me to be me. I know I'm an acquired taste. I can't wait to win a World Series with this group. I'm also attached to another special group and family, the Buck. Thank you for welcoming me with open arms back in 2008. That date gets circled every year on my calendar. I encourage more of you to attend. Being invested in this group has made me a better human being, I believe. My path, as well as most everyone in this room, has been dependent on doors opening because someone else believes in us. With that, thank you to Lenny Strelitz, who gave me my first full-time gig as an area scout with the Rangers. Thank you to Jack Zarinzik, who gave me a chance to cross-check with the Brewers, as well as prepare me to become a scouting director. Thank you to Ed Wade, who brought me to Houston to lead 5 drafts. I'm quite proud of what we built and producing, including the staffing. Gavin Dickey, I believe you're in the room. I look forward to the day you become a general manager. And finally to Andrew Friedman, who brought me to the Rays with a giant assist going to R.J. Harrison. In closing, embrace the space you're in. We're all very lucky. Give back to the game and to those in it. Happy holidays to all of you and your families, and thank you again for this truly special honor.
Let's give a hand to all the winners tonight. Great speeches.
Real quick, we want to bring Russ Beauvais to acknowledge all the previous winners in attendance and a moment of silence for all the scouts that have passed away.
Thank you, sir. Hi, I'm Russ Beauvais. I'm a 2017 winner. Want to thank Ron and Roberta Mazur. I don't think any of us realize how connected they are, how they were able to get the FBI to let Sal out here with the witness protection program. Roberta told me the biggest problem she had was convincing the FBI it was Sal Augustinelli, not Sammy the Bull Gravano. You know, my wife said, "How come you're sitting at the end?" I said, "Well, where I grew up in New York, in the Goodfellas section of Queens, they told you don't sit close to the guy who somebody might come in and whack him. So I'm moving away from Sal." You didn't think you were going to get off easy, did you, Sal? I'd like to acknowledge the previous winners of Scouts of the Year who are here. Now, full disclosure, some of these guys, we had to promise them a free Social Security conference after the dinner, so that's why they're here. But Damon Oppenheimer, 2018. My buddy, who we went in the same year, Grady Fuson, 2017. Mike Arbuckle, 2015. Louis Oahe, I hope I'm saying it right, 2021. The famous Danny Montgomery, 2018. Billy Schmidt, 2019. Sal Augustinelli, 2018. Johnny DePuglia, 2019. Marco Patti, 2022. Stevie Williams, 2022. A lot of people don't realize what a year 2022 was for Stevie Williams. He was asked to star in a documentary on the famous boxing promoter Don King. For you young people who don't know who Don King is, look him up. Sorry, Stevie, I couldn't pass him. Brad Sloan, 2018. John Barr, 2019. Did I miss anybody? R.J. Harrison's dad, Bob Harrison, was a former Scout of the Year. Now I got to put my glasses on. Jim Walton, who I worked with the Bureau. Dutch Deutsch, who threw me out of a tryout camp. Clyde Ware, Dave Yoakum, my dear friend. Bob Poole, Dan Houston, the great Paul Snyder, and Bill Young. Also, anybody who'd like to donate to the Scout of the Year program in honor of one of these guys, it would be really, really appreciated. And you got my approval to put it on your expense account, however you got to do it. Anyway, thanks everybody. Roberta, Ron, who never gets enough recognition, but he's the man behind the woman. So we appreciate everything you guys do. Keep supporting the Scout of the Year program, guys. Thank you.
Well, that about concludes this evening. I need to thank a few people. I would like to thank Major League Baseball for their support of the reception. John D'Angelo from Major League Baseball. Louisville Slugger, Paul Paulson, Don Spare for the jewelry boxes. And East Coast Pro Showcase and their generous donation. Rich Hassan, from our international sponsor, and all the Major League teams for the continuous support of this program.